So I've not long been back from a seminar in Dublin in the Republic of Ireland with Tashiro Sensei, who is Kyoshi Hachidan. Last time I checked, anyway. It's been, well, 3 years or so since I've seen him. In fact, it was the very last event I went to before COVID-19 and lockdown and all of that kind of stuff went down. So it was really, really, really fantastic to see him again, and you could tell that he was just genuinely so pleased to be back on the road, I guess, and visiting people and teaching people abroad and seeing returning faces and familiar faces and new faces and all that kind of thing. Really, really quite nice. In fact, he made a point of coming over and finding me and just saying, how nice it was to see me, and how good it was to be back and that kind of thing. So, and considering the man doesn't speak a whole ton of English, it was a really appreciated gesture. And so we kicked off the seminar. We started on day one. You'll have to forgive me as well, I'm a bit bunged up with a bit of a cold or something like that. Anyway, we started day one with kata, tachi, ippon to nanahome, so 1 to 7, and we'd maybe do 3 or 4 on average rotations, and then swap sides, that sort of thing, and then depending on how it went, if it went well, move on. If there were points to touch on, then he would touch upon those. His big focusing points for the kata, I didn't get any footage of the kata actually, because I wanted to make sure that I was okay to film, so I didn't set the camera up immediately on day one. So yeah, sorry, I don't have any footage of the kata practice, but his main points on kata was holding your breath, keeping your breath in your body for the duration of the kata, but particularly focus on, keep your breath until you've executed your waza, which is obviously really good advice in case you haven't heard this before. Maybe if you're more of a beginner, you don't want to really be in cutting distance in isoko itonomai, right? 1 step, 1 cut distance. You don't really want to be there and like exhaling, because your body kind of goes soft and it's really not prepped to move. You need a bit of tension in your core, so that your kamae is stable. So when you launch off that back leg and drive those hips forward, your whole body kind of goes forward all as one. It's quite an important factor in Kikentai no Ichi, and it's an important factor in tame, this kind of tension, and release of the waza, so that you get this explosive technique. So that was one of the key points that he wanted to focus on. And then the other was the timing of the waza itself, so how it went down. So there was a lot of, like, particularly with ippon me, obviously a bit more so with the beginners, but there was a lot of, like, 3 steps in, ya, to, which is not really the timing you want to go for. So even for ippon me, one person's uchidachi is in hidari jodan, and shirachi is migi jodan, and you step in and it should be ya to, quite as immediate as you can, bearing in mind that it's nuki waza, you've got to step back and lift your hands, but you do want to make it as immediate as you can, right? And then the way the kata progress, so by the time you get to sanbon me, it should be really, really, really immediate with the ski, and returning the ski, ya to, and then immediately pressure them up the dojo. And then by the time you get to nanahome, it should be the same time. So like, kata number 6 and kata number 7, the timing is very, very, very sharp. Very, very, very sharp. In fact, number 7, it sounds like the ki from both sides is at the same time. Yato! So that was something he really wanted to focus on. And we talked a little bit about riai as well, which helped obviously for people trying to understand why the waza works the way it does, and obviously for some people trying to fix the distance and things like that on certain cuts. Again, nanahome springs to mind, where it's nukido, men nukido. Obviously a lot of people kind of cut in the front of the door, so a key point that he always used to raise with me was, look at the door when you strike it. It'll help you to be really immediate, and just know that that timing that you're looking for is that same time. So if Ichidachi is saying ya as they lift to step through and cut the men, and you're immediately tall, then you should hit the door on target. And it's a forward movement, not a cutting off to the side. Many years back, but I remember struggling with Kaishido and Nukido. Was a waza I really wanted to, get proficient at, and I just reached a point where I was kind of butting my head against an imaginary ceiling, and it was his explanation of it in kata, and a lot of it came down to the intention. You got to be immediate and really just jump on that door. As soon as those arms go up, you want to jump on that door. You don't want to wait for them to cut the men. That's too late. You've got to trust that your seme is effective, so when their posture begins to break, you're already on your way cutting that door. And that was a game changer for me. After that, I could cut Kaishido and Nukido to a pretty reasonable standard, and obviously it's hopefully getting better since then. But yeah, so that was the beginning of day one. We then jumped into armor, and what he likes to do is get you pretty tired pretty quickly before you begin learning as such. So one of the things he likes to do is to do like uchikomi keiko, kakari keiko, and kirikaeshi all stacked together. So what we did was, we did a bit of that. And a lot of us thought there was going to be more than one go at this, because it's pretty taxing. And he's kind of let us off the hook. I don't know if he was conscious of people's fitness after COVID or that sort of thing, but it wasn't too bad. Obviously, if you give everything, it tires you out straight away. But anyway, so we did that. That kind of got everyone loose and limber. And after that, I think we broke for lunch shortly after that, or we may have done some waza practice, I'm not sure. Excuse me. But in the waza practice, obviously we did kind of basic men, kote men, I want to say kote men. We did actually quite a lot of so what he did was kind of do sort of maya waza, so just waza going forward, single strike kind of thing. Then nidan waza, so say kote men for example. Then sandan waza, so kote men, taitari hiki men for example. Kote men, taitari hiki kote. Kote men, taitari hiki do. Those sorts of combinations. And was really nice that we got to touch upon ski waza as well. And he had real emphasis on, keep your concentration high. And if you miss a strike, then you should go for another one immediately. So have the presence of mind to stay on the opponent until you get that ippon. And I thought that was quite a nice touch. Rather than just doing the waza and not saying anything about why we're doing the waza, there was this idea of, here's where I'm going with this, right? Don't just give up on your waza if you miss or you mess it up. And so we did that with the nidan, sandan, and even yondan waza, where it could go up to 4 cuts. So for example, you might do kote men, taitari hiki do to get them to drop their hands, and then hiki men, that would be like your yondan waza, 4-step waza. But we also did it with ski practice as well. So if you skied and you missed the ski, then cut a hiki men or something like that. Or even if it's maya waza going forward, cut men and go through, depending on the distance. But don't give up on that waza. So that was the important takeaway from the waza practice. We also did some shinai maintenance stuff on the first day, which I believe was just after the lunch break. And that was quite nice, really good for people who maybe have done the basic sanding and stuff like that, and oiling, but maybe they've never really truly completely disassembled the shinai. And also, Sensei's really well aware that people don't have a lot of money to throw at gear in the West in a lot of cases, and it's perhaps a bit more expensive, relatively speaking, gear-wise, to keep a stock of new shinai all the time. So he knows that there's people who are keeping spare parts and stuff like that. So he had some advice for them about, try to buy the batches of shinai from the same batch, so that all the take are very, very close in terms of where the knots are in the wood. But also, like, I can't remember the name for it, but the little metal thing that's in the base of the tsuka, that tends to be cut to the same height relative to the bottom of the tsuka. So if you're buying the same batch, you've got like 3 shinai from the same batch, there's more chance that you can take a take from elsewhere and put it with that set and it will fit. But he also showed just some techniques for it, if it's not an ideal fit. So for example, he keeps a little small saw in his toolkit so that he can cut a new ridge for that part to sit in. For example, that was one thing. He had some advice about if your tsukagawa, the leather cover on the grip, if that's very stiff, just to kind of wet it to soften it up. Also, you can sand down the tsuka itself so that it has a better chance of sliding on. So again, just some advice for like trying to get the most out of your parts and dealing with problems that you might come into if you're using bits of shinai and they don't quite match up properly, or they're proving a bit difficult to work with. And then he showed us some of his tools from his toolkits and stuff like that, and just went into some detail about those different types of planes that he would use and that kind of thing. So that was cool. And we came into the afternoon, and I just went into Keiko's like general rotation. Now Sensei wasn't feeling the best. I believe he was carrying an injury in his legs. I'm not sure exactly what the deal was. I just know he was resting them on the first day, so he couldn't really do much in the way of Keiko. So he was mainly just coaching and oversight. So it was up to kind of Sandan, Yondan, Godan to take the Keiko. So that was great. I got plenty of rotations, so I found myself doing a lot of the teaching side. I should say as well, during the waza practice, thanks very much to Catherine. Catherine's one of the people who help run things down there in Dublin. Really great person, great host. But yeah, she was really, something went wrong with our rotation in the waza practice, so she would have to come and run over because I got left like stranded with no one, just the way the rotation worked. Somebody must have dropped out or something, I don't know. Anyway, she would have to like do translation, a little bit of oversight, and then like run over to me and do waza practice with me, without armor for her. But we were able to still get her some good practice, so it worked out okay in the end, and she gave me some good practice. So yeah, all's well that ends well. But yeah, so we took the general Keiko, and I think we got like 1 or 2 Keiko with each other, so then we were able to kind of drop in, and it was like you could fence your peers for like 1 or 2 Keiko, and that wrapped up day 1. Then it was off to the sayonara party, which was really cool. Just went for some dinner and some drinks here and there. Nobody stayed out too late, didn't get too out of hand, so that's probably a good thing. Day 2 started with kata practice again, but this time we got to work on solidly for what felt like a couple of hours. I'm not sure if it was that long, maybe it was an hour and a half or something like that, but a significant portion of time working just on kodachi, ippome to sanbome. And it was really great because we really got to pick Sensei's brain about kamae with the kodachi, nuances with, the kind of ukenagashi, the catch and block in ippome and nihome. He had some really great advice about the transition in sanbome from the suriyage to the suryotoshi, surinagash, which is where you catch and slide down, and then the surikomi, which is where you step in and you lock them. So he had some great advice about taking their right elbow and turning that upwards. So he said that's the key point. Turn that upwards and make sure your kodachi blade is facing directly opposing their blade, which is trying to come in towards your door, but also could potentially hit your legs. So he was very keen on having the blade very vertical at the end of the surikomi, and went in kind of out and away to the right diagonally. We had some struggles with the nuance of this, but what fixed it was the detail we kept forgetting was the elbow. So he was like, if you rotate the elbow out, you have full control, and it was really, really interesting. So yeah, great day of kata practice. We spent some time doing waza practice again, similar but not entirely the same. So we did like some suriage waza and stuff like that. Again, more nidan, sandan, yondan type waza, more ski practice again, which was great. Before that, he actually had us warm up kind of in Borgue. Like I said, he likes to loosen you up. So then he did go heavy on us this time. So we had to do 2 times uchikomi back to back, 2 times kakari keiko back to back. Oh, it might have started with kakari keiko. 2 times kakari keiko, 2 times uchikomi, I can't remember. And 2 times kirikaeshi back to back. And that'll punish you. And we did, I think, a couple of rotations of that. Then into the waza practice. And then we spent some time looking at armor, how to wear the armor. For anyone who knows Sensei, he's a budogu professional, so he's a stickler for this, but he loves to share his advice. So that was really great. You got to climb into the deep details of that. And then we went into Shiai Keiko, and that was really great. So we broke up into groups of, like, based on Dan level, and did Ippon Shobu, Shiai Keiko, and Shimpan practice, importantly. And then it was kind of a chance to, after that, demonstrate. So each grade would go in and they would demonstrate, I guess, what they'd learned that day, or do Shiai together, whatever the case was. And again, it was Ippon Shobu format. And this is where I took probably the most away for myself, in terms of preparation for Godan and just like going ahead. So basically, in trying to learn to be patient, it's got a bit contrived, and I've taken it a bit of a step too far, and I've now got to the point where I've become the waiting sword a little bit, and I'm more like over obsessing about Sen. So what I'm doing is I'm stepping in and I'm like trying to call people's bluff and stuff, and when my Senmei hasn't been effective, I'm not really picking up on that, and I'm losing the Sen here and there without really realizing. So it's working with some people, it's not working with some of the tougher opponents. They're immune, shall we say. Not all the time, but you know, like they have a high degree of control. And so that was the advice I got from a couple of people that I trained with that I really respect and trust, that, you know, are a few steps ahead of me. But I went to check with Sensei after the seminar, and his advice was the same. He was basically like, step in, cut, good, step in, wait. You know, so I was like, okay, yeah, he's saying the same thing to me. So that was really great, because that's what I went there for. So I got everything that I wanted out of the seminar. It was basically take my kendo there. There's a good few yondans and godans to bounce off of, and I knew if I got keiko with them, I would dig up whatever I needed to work on, and so I did. Shout out to Aiden, by the way. He's a viewer from this video. It's the first time I've gone to an event and met a viewer of the channel, and yeah, really great young guy, and he's working at his kendo. He's pretty new to it in the context of kendo, but he's doing all the right things. Caught him, I had footage of this, but I messed up, I lost it. But yeah, he was first one in the dojo, or one of the first ones in the dojo on the Sunday morning, and sweeping the dojo floor and making sure he was ready and warmed up and practicing well before most others were. You know, just working on his kihon, his basics and that sort of thing. So he's got his head screwed on the right way, doing all the right things. Aiden, you're gonna be fine. Just keep going the way you're going. But great attitude. So yeah, you keep it up, man. So anyway, the second day then just finished with, again, just general keiko. Sensei took a few people for keiko, but I didn't really realize there was, I didn't really realize how he was doing it, but he was basically just kind of inviting over, giving people the opportunity to run over. But I don't think most of us heard it, or there would have been a fight for it. By the time I realized that was happening, he was calling for his last keiko, and somebody else beat me to the punch, and I didn't really want to be rude to the person who was standing in front of me that was just about to start keiko with. So it's okay, I can let it go, I got what I came for. It's not like getting keiko with Sensei, although I feel bummed that I missed the opportunity. It's not like it would have been a game changer for me for the seminar, I don't think, because, like I said, I had that network of Irish Yondan and Godan, particularly the Godans, to bounce off of and see where my kendo was kind of stacking up. And yeah, so I got what I came for, and yeah, I just need to get back to being a little bit proactive. I know I have it in me. I do it with some opponents. I have this difficulty sometimes switching gears from when I'm coaching and teaching in my own dojo to, right, we're going to throw down now with peer level, and especially if it's shiai, of like switching into a different gear, like a much more ruthless competitive gear. But I do know I have it in me. I've done it with people often. I just need to like have the presence of mind to just be like, right, maximum effort here. Don't slack off. Keep the pressure. Keep messing with the mic. Keep disturbing their rhythm. Like, just stay really, really, really active all the time, and it will come together for me. So, but yeah, there we go. So that's the end of the video. Let me know what you think in the comments. Have you trained with Tashiro Sensei before? If you have, let me know what you think. But otherwise, take care, and I'll see you again soon. Hopefully be back with some more content sooner rather than later. Thanks a lot. Bye.